In this video, we're going to look at a dirt road collision and see what we can learn from it. So before we can learn anything, we've got to take a look at everything in context. And here's my car coming from the direction of the collision car, the one that's hit, so you can get an idea of what the road looks like from that direction. And here it is coming from the direction of the car which did the hitting. And you can see it's a bit of a straight and a downhill, then a left-hander, which is actually blind, as I'll demonstrate in a moment. And this is what it looks like from the point of view of the car which did the hitting. That's coming up to the left-hander about here, as you can see. It's quite blind and corrugated as well, and that actually plays a factor, I think, in the collision. Now this is the actual footage from the car which was collided into, which is dash cam, and I've used that with permission from the owners. For context, it was a 79 series. It was leading a full drive convoy, and as you can see, driving pretty slowly and pretty cautiously up until the point of the collision, so certainly not going too fast or too recklessly, and also, as you can see here, keeping well out to the left on right hand bends. So I think doing absolutely everything right when it comes to driving cautiously on dirt roads. And now let's take a look at the actual collision.
Hey! Oh, shit!
So here is it in slow-mo. The car is all the way over to the left, going fairly slowly for maximum visibility around the corner, leaving the maximum amount of room on the right-hand side for any oncoming car. And it's not quite enough because the other car, well, we're going to talk about that in the analysis. So here's the scene of the incident. Now, from the perspective of the oncoming car, there's quite a few things to look at. The first thing is that we've got a bit of a straight, as you can see there. So there is time to move the car to one side or the other, but it's dirt and it's downhill. And the fact it's downhill will increase your stopping distances. Now, this set of trees to my right is actually going to obscure the oncoming car's vision. So that's one problem. So this corner is blind to them. They can't see what is going to come around the corner because of those trees. Now this is the most important part of this video. 2 points. One, when you are driving on a dirt road around a blind corner, you must assume that somebody or something will be in your way and drive at a speed such that you can stop within the distance you can see. Second, you must position your car to give maximum space to any oncoming traffic you meet unexpectedly. We've got the downhill as well, but also if we come over here, then you can see that there's corrugations. Now these corrugations are probably caused by people coming around the corner, putting the power down, and then there's a bit of bounce, and corrugations get worse over time. From the perspective of a car coming downhill, what that means is that the wheels will bounce and your stopping distance will be increased. So you've got dirt, you've got downhill, you've got corrugations, all of which are going to reduce your grip. However, what you can do is get the car quite a long way over to this side over here, because there's no real reason you couldn't have your left wheel all the way over here, which is probably going to be better grip than having it all the way out over here. Now, from the perspective of the car coming around this direction, we've got the typical problem, which is you want to get your car out to this side as much as you can so you get maximum visibility coming around the corner, but you also give as much space as possible for someone coming up the inside. The problem with that is this: you can see that this is pretty loose, and that means less grip, whereas over in the side here, that's less of a problem. Now the reason for that is when the car goes around the corner, it will tend to kick dirt to one side, and that's why we get this loose build up here. So you want to get your car over this side as much as you can, but you are going to find less grip. The other problem is that we've got this ditch over here, and there's only so far you can go before you move over there. So really it's just a case of coming around the corner, putting your left wheels over here and going slow, which is exactly what they did. Now the actual impact point, they sort of came around the corner and they were turning, but at the last moment sort of turned the car away and headed, and it was this exact tree that they ended up pointing the bull bar at, but they couldn't really get much further off the road because there's a hole of some description there. So they did everything they could to get their car off the road, and it still wasn't enough. Your car's got 4 tyres, each of which have a certain amount of grip, and that's your grip budget. How well you spend that grip budget really is the mark between a successful driver and a failed driver. So let's see how that works. Now it's also known as the circle of traction, circle of friction, a few other different names, but fundamentally the concept's the same. We take a tyre and we have a grip limit which is represented by this circle. Now we can use that grip limit entirely for accelerating, or we can use it for braking, we can use it for turning right, or we can use it for turning left. All good so far. Now the problem comes when we want to do 2 of those things at the same time. We want to turn to the maximum, we want to brake to the maximum. We can't do that because what we find is that that's where the grip demand is, and we've exceeded our grip budget. So a tyre cannot be used to brake to its maximum as well as turn to the maximum. There's got to be a compromise. So here's how that is working out with that car which hit the other car. So at the moment the driver doesn't appear to be braking too hard, and we can tell that because there's not much dirt kicked up by the tyres. So it seems like he's just starting to enter the corner, probably not even braked yet, or not very much. So the demand isn't much. We've got a little bit of braking here I think, and a little bit of turning. We are well within our grip demand, so that's our demand, and then our result is exactly what the driver demanded because we are operating within the budget of the tyres. We're not demanding too much grip. Now we get to this point, the driver appears to be braking hard, and we can tell that because we've now got dirt starting to kick up and dust starting to kick up from the tyres, which is what happens when you brake hard. So I don't think we're at the point we're exceeding grip limits yet, but we've certainly braked a bit harder, we've turned a bit harder, and because we're within the grip budget, the car is able to do that. Now we get to the point here and we're really, looks to me, braking absolute to the maximum, yet we've also tried to turn the car's way. You can see that the steering wheels are turned, there's a little bit of body roll going on. I feel at this point we have exceeded the car's grip limit, and we're asking more from the tyres than they can give us, because I think braking has gone to the maximum here and we've got some turning, and you can't do that, so we've exceeded that grip limit. Now what does that actually mean in this car? Well, grip demand has exceeded the grip budget, but there are a whole load of microprocessors inside this car trying to make the car do what the driver wants it to do. Without going into them in detail, we've got ABS, which is stopping the wheels from locking up. As soon as the wheels lock up, the car will plough straight on. We've got ESC, which is stopping it understeering off the road or the back end sliding out. We've got EBD, which is electronic brake distribution, distributing the brake force front and rear across all four tyres, and CBC, cornering brake control, Toyota call it something different, which helps the car turn around the corner by braking individual wheels. So all of these electronics are helping this car do what the driver wants it to do, and the driver has said brake me as much as possible and turn that much. So that's what the car is attempting to do. Now here's the result. The electronics have reduced the amount of braking because they would have to free up some grip for a bit of turning. Now the driver has the choice how much turning versus how much braking. That is within their control, and the car will then execute it with the electronic programs here to try and maximize the grip, as I believe it has done so. Now we get to this point over here and the steering wheels have turned more, so we've actually got more steering turn, and I presume that the brakes are still hard on, certainly by looking at the amount of dust kicked up there, and we've also got some significant body roll. So we've demanded more turning. Now again, limit of physics here, the car can't do that. It has to reduce the braking effort, because if it doesn't reduce the braking effort, then it simply can't turn. And essentially these electronics will try and respond to what the driver's going to do. So I want to turn, it will look at that steering wheel angle and it will try and turn the car, reduce the braking, free it up. And that's what we have. Now, and that continues right up until impact. And here we have, I think, again, even more turning, maximum braking, and that's the result there. So the car's turning quite a lot, but then that would necessarily be a reduction in braking. Now, if you're thinking, oh, okay, well, look, ABS is no good on dirt, etc., that was the case 25 years ago. These days, there are special programs to detect when a car is on dirt and what sort of surface it's on, and then the ABS programs will modify what they do and allow a little bit more wheel lockup or less wheel lockup depending on the surface. So ABS is now really good on dirt. On Toyota, I can guarantee have done a good job of it. Now, a couple of clarifications on the Circle. It's not sharp, so I described it as sort of, that's the point where you've got grip and then immediately after that you don't have grip. Well, that's not the case. It's actually more like this, because you sort of get to the point where the tyres are slipping, they're reducing grip, and then they'll completely reduce grip, so it's more kind of a fuzzy edged circle, but nevertheless you still can think of it as a circle, unless you want to get really technical, in which case it's actually more like an oval. But the concept for, I think, most drivers is fine to think of it as a circle. Now, it's also important to think about what changes the size of the circle. So here we've got a 200 series on bitumen, and those 4 circles represent the 4 tyres. Now, you'll notice that I've made the ones at the front slightly larger than the ones at the rear, and the reason for that is this car is braking. When a car brakes, you get a load shift onto the front wheels and therefore more grip at the front, less grip at the rear. So that's bitumen, and let's say that we have a demand to do that. Well, that's right at the limit of what the tyres can do on bitumen. Now we go onto a dirt road, we put the same car there, and those circles are going to be smaller because a dirt road offers less grip than a bitumen road. And if we make the same demand out of those tyres, we're going to be exceeding the grip limit. And that's kind of intuitive, right? You know that you can't brake as quickly on a dirt road or on a wet road as you can on a dry bitumen road, and that is because your grip budget is greater on a dry bitumen road than it is on a dirt road, so therefore again you've got to drive within your grip budget. So what changes the circle? Well, things like the road surface, obviously if it's wet or dirt or combination of the two, that's going to be less. The type of the tyre makes a big difference. On a dirt road, mud tyres will give you greater grip than road tyres, and vice versa on bitumen. The inflation pressure and the load and the weight on the tyres. There's so many different factors around this, but the point being, you must always figure out what your grip budget is and drive within it. Now, if that car hadn't been a modern LC200, what would have happened? Well, there's the oncoming car, there's the vehicle which has crashed into. Essentially, doing what that driver did would have locked the front wheels and possibly the rear wheels as well, and the car would have just slid on absolutely straight. Once you lock those wheels, there's no turning. With a modern vehicle, what happens is this: you do actually retain some turning. You can slam the brakes on, there's no need for cadence braking or anything like that. That's way before the age of electronic cars. And then the electronics will prioritise braking and turning to try and get you around the corner, which is what has happened here. So to summarise, always assume oncoming traffic on dirt roads will be on your side of the road. Drive so that you can stop in the distance you can see ahead. Position your car to give maximum space to any other traffic. Understand your grip budget, for example corrugations, dirt, downhill, and spend it wisely. Stability control, ABS and electronic aids are great on dirt roads, leave them on.